How did you end up writing or co-writing this episode?
So I had a semi-productive pandemic. I went through the range of crying and fear and everything that we all went through. But also I started journaling and writing, and I got a writing coach essentially, and like the good student I am, I did multiple week sessions and started writing samples and scenes. And then I had an idea, really what really solidified it for me, that I started developing with the showrunner and creator of the last show I was on, Jane the Virgin, with Jenny Erman. And she was so encouraging of me as a writer, and is so brilliant that it lit the fire under me to want to tell stories. And so I wrote a sample script for Supergirl, the story that I wanted to tell, exploring how we treat our vets post-war with PTSD as a society, and how we don't support them in the way that they should be supported. And I sent that to our showrunners, and they loved it. And that storyline didn't end up happening, but it was enough to send our producers in the studio to get me approval for the spec. And then they let me know that I was going to be writing an episode. I did not know it was going to be the episode where I become a superhero, which was an epic surprise. But and then I got like 3 or 4 episodes off to join the writer's room. And so I did over a month, 10 to 5 every day in the writer's room, and broke the story for the arc for 9, 10, and 12, and then went off with Jane. We wrote 12. So it was like I had a full writing experience for a couple of months.
I was gonna ask you, because I'm sure you're just incredibly busy, how you found the time to do all that, to write the episode.
Yeah, they made time, which was great. And it's always a compromise when you're like, to not be able to be in episodes of the show, you want Kelly to be on screen, but it felt so important. And I really love just being able to write and just being able to be in the room with the writers all day and not be hopping back and forth. And then I did go back to filming once we started doing our notes calls with the studio and the network, and that got tricky. I definitely had I think I had our Warner Brothers notes call in Alex and Kelly's closet on set between setups. Like I went in the closet and sat on the floor and took them their script notes. So that became a little trickier. I do it, in my super suit, like in the hallway, with a full helmet, trying to take notes or writing. But the actual script, I had 2 months to work on it with our writers, which was great.
And you mentioned your costume. It looks freaking badass, man. Did you have any input on it?
I did. I got really lucky with this whole thing. Robert and Jessica, our showrunners, really let me have so much creative control and say, which in hindsight is crazy. Thank God it turned out okay. But I think they knew that I would figure it out. I know that they knew I'd figure it out. The suit, I really wanted to do the half helmet. I had a list of things I wanted to do, and they all happened, which was amazing. I don't think anything on that list I was told no. I wanted to honor the original comic book. I'm a big Bumblebee and Malcolm Duncan fan, which was the original Guardian and his partner. And there was so much in that suit that I loved, and mainly the gold. And once we figured out that we could logistically do the half helmet, and it was like, okay, well, the visibility of her as a Black woman, let's lean into that. And I wanted to do braids, and they said yes. And then being East African, so much of my culture being Eritrean and Ethiopian is in the suit. The gold beads are very like a nod to my culture. And then I just went crazy. The belt came back and it had silver, and I was like, can we spray paint it gold? And they're like, are we just gonna lean into it? And I was like, yes, all of the accessories. I want to honor the comic, but also she's never been played by a woman, so still keep her femininity and who she is. And it came out great. And it was also very comfortable because I had everyone before me that gave me what was wrong with their suits. Kyler sent me a long list of issues with going to the bathroom or staying hydrated. And so I had all the, when you do fight scenes, your vest is going to ride up. So have them built in hooks into your pants so you can little things that you would never think of. So I think that I had the most comfortable super suit. I would hang out between takes totally fine when everyone else would be peeling off their layers. So I was lucky. I had the benefit of being last, I guess.
What was it like writing for yourself? I mean, did you throw in yourself like the coolest lines and all that? I mean, did you do that?
I mean, it was a very out of body experience. And I don't think, which is so weird, I didn't think about the fact that I would have to perform it. And actually, when I started prepping for the episode, I was like, why did I write so many monologues for, like, why am I crying so much? Like, in hindsight, I don't know if I would have done it the same way. It felt like I was writing for someone else. And I know Kelly so well after playing her for all these years that I was more focused on her. And in a weird way, I didn't associate it with myself until I had to do it. But it's a funny thing when you like forget your line and you're like, I wrote this. Like, it's embarrassing to be like, what was that line again?
When you initially got the part, did you have any idea you'd end up a superhero?
No. And
I mean, that's the dream, right?
Yeah, it's the dream. I mean, the fans have been championing this since the second I got it. The fan art has happened before I started filming. I was getting tagged and stuff. So they rallied for it so hard. I know Derek Simon, one of our writers who I adore, it's like been his dream for Kelly to become Guardian. And like I sent him our new poster yesterday, and he was like, I need this printed in my home. It's like his baby vision. And I didn't know if it would ever happen. And then, COVID, and it got pushed so many times. I think once we did the crossover and I had the shield, I knew it was happening. And then also we have fans that come to set and we're filming on location and seeing their reaction. So a lot of the young girls' reaction to it, I realized how special and important it was for a superhero like this to exist in the Arrowverse. And so I felt very protective over it. I also never dreamed I would write it. But yeah, it is a dream come true. Like, putting on a super suit for the first time is a wild experience, let me tell you. It's very emotional.
Yeah, I just doing it like on Halloween. It's just like you feel that rush and that energy,
And I've never dressed up as a superhero before for Halloween. So I was like, I feel so powerful. Why have I not been doing this? Oh, now I know.
I only have you for a couple more minutes, and I have two questions that I want to ask you. I want to ask about Jane the Virgin real quick. You went to audition and got the part that day.
Yeah.
And am I getting this right? They immediately brought you to a table read?
Yeah. So I was the last girl to read. I think it was like 6, by the time I finally got in, it was like 6 p.m. And then I got a call at like 7 a.m. Like, you got the job and you have to be a table read at like 10.
That must have been mind blowing.
The point where casting is like, we'll pick you up on the way if you know. And I'm like, I actually lived on the west. We filmed in Manhattan Beach Studios, so I lived very close. It was intense. And my first scene I shot, everyone came to watch because I think that was like a version of my test, because there was no time to test me or do any of that. It was great. That was an experience that, like, to be on a show, came in the second episode that just catapulted the way it did that first year, and to be with such a great group of people who I'm still really close with, most of them, was such a magical, special experience. And again, the creator of that show is a huge part of why I'm writing. She really encouraged and supported me, and still does to this day. I send her sample ideas and she gives me notes, and it was as magical as the show seemed on the outside.
And then my final question that I love to ask everybody, what's been your worst audition ever?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh my gosh, it immediately popped in my brain. When
I love those, yeah.
Oh man,
it still haunts you.
Yeah, it still haunts me. I had an audition, and I don't remember what it was like. It was like, I think it was definitely a franchise. I think it was a CSI. I think it was like it wasn't Miami, because Miami, they were great. Actually, that cast member was wonderful. It was CSI something, I think. I don't think it was NCIS. I think it was CSI. And it was one of my first auditions, and I went in and I nailed the first read. I was like, oh, I was playing like a nurse, nurse number 2. And I actually had a chunk of like kind of medical-y dialogue, and I like ran through it, and I'm like, you're so good. Will you come back this afternoon for producers? And I was like, absolutely. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm in the Valley. Let me, like, I'll meet a friend for lunch. I can't go. I was living on the West Side. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna drive back. And we had this like very heavy lunch, which was a bad call. And I ate like carbohydrates and pastas. And so I got really tired and I was like, let me counter this with a lot of caffeine. And my brain was not operating. And I walked in and it was such a big room and I was so nervous. I forgot my lines. I had one line, one chunk. And I had to restart like 3 times. And I remember somebody leaning over and being like, I don't know why people like this act. And I heard her.
Oh my God.
I was like, it was so bad. And so then they were like, okay, you have to do it again. And so I just remember I was like, I had a moment where I was like, can I just please leave? Like, but I didn't. And I just picked up, they handed me a paper and I couldn't even make eye contact. I read the 3 lines that I had for that episode. And then I just got up and left and then never auditioned for that show again. And then it went over. But I was like, I cried I was like, why am I doing this? And what's happening? And yeah, I could hear her say, and I've had people answer phones in castings before, and I've had all that. But yeah, she very loudly was like, I don't know why people like this choose to be actors in the middle of my audition on tape.
Oh my God. I've had people, I'm an actor too. I've had people answer phones in like while I'm like trying to audition, and it's just maddening. And that, oh my God, that would have been like, that would still haunt me to this day.
Oh, I'm sure if that tape is somewhere, like it was like, you know, in the cartoons where like the tears fill up before they come flying out of your eyes. It was like, as I was saying each line, it was, you know, by the time I got out of the room, I didn't cry in the room, but I was like, why? I mean, you know, it's like, we're already insecure as it is when we are trying to do this. And yeah, I just couldn't do it. But maybe it was like CSI New York. I don't remember, but whatever. Never did it again. And I'm still acting. That was like a decade ago. So
wow.
I showed her.
You did. Well, hey, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And I think you're great.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me. I love talking acting. So I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Bye.